republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have roll call, please?
Mrs. Greenberg? Here. Mrs. Bacon?
Here.
Mr. Laney?
Here.
Mrs. Matura?
Here.
Mrs. Case?
Here. Next on the agenda is approval of agenda. Dr. Bales.
Thank you, President Ventura, Governing Board, Cabinet, and guests. Items approved by consent will not come up for discussion during the meeting, but will be approved when the agenda is adopted. This is possible since members of the Governing Board receive the agenda along with backup materials at least 24 hours prior to the meeting and have time to review and consider all items. Prior to the agenda being adopted, members of the Governing Board or audience may ask that an item be removed from the consent agenda and brought to the floor for discussion at the appropriate place on the agenda. I would like to offer the agenda as posted.
Does any member of the Governing Board wish to have an item removed from the consent agenda? Does any member of the audience wish to have an item removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, Mrs. Greenberg, may I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda and recommend consent agenda items G1 to G14?
So moved.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is Governing Board statements. Mrs. Case.
Thank you. I wanted to go first because I know we're all going to say the same thing. Okay, so my favorite thing to do one of my very best favorite things to do is go to Student Voice. And we got to do it in person for the first time in 2 years with 4 students from each of our high schools. And it was thrilling and exciting to be with these students and to hear their opinions. What they said a couple months ago in one of our meetings that we had online, we changed the direction of the district strategic plan and we used their words. And it's so exciting to hear their ideas. They're wonderful. And just in we broke up into groups and we had a student from each school at each table in different grade levels. And it's really fun to compare the freshmen to the seniors because there's a difference, but some freshmen they all talk, but they can use better verbiage by the time they're seniors and they can express their ideas a little bit better. But to see that growth, and some of these students we've known for 4 years, and we asked them about why they stayed in PVUSD schools, and their answers were wonderful. A lot of them said because the teachers care, and they can feel from administrators that they care, that they come to these schools and somebody cares about them, not just with words, but with action. And they know the difference. Some had been in different middle schools and they could see the change when they came into the district. And it just made me feel so good to know how they felt. And then we had different social economical groups of kids at different tables. And this young man said, I know they care. I couldn't afford to get anything for graduation, and they're helping me pay for that. And another young lady from a school that she was not in the same category. Anyway, she looked at him and she goes, that's what I'm talking about. They care about you. And you could just see the empathy going back and forth before these students so they could understand that they're all coming from different places. It was thrilling. I loved Student Voice. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Laney.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, a lot of those things I would echo. You got to go first. You got to highlight on all the good points, but let's see here. What I really liked about it is they were able to help us brainstorm ideas on how to improve the district. And the kids were all extremely frank, and it was refreshing to hear their opinions. And so I wanted to publicly thank all of them for participating in PV High School, their culinary department for putting it on. The food was awesome, and they sent us home with a to-go bag so we can eat a meal later. And the young man that sat next to me, to give you an idea of how PV has helped him, he was a troubled teen, and on the point where he was almost out of school. And he said that the teachers and administrators where he was helped him get back on track And now he's volunteering for things like this. And so it was really cool to see, you know, a teen like that turn around his life. And so I wanted to say thank you.
Oh, Mrs. Bacon?
I'm also going to talk about student voice. It is really a great opportunity for us to talk with kids and really get to learn how they feel about our schools. And one of the questions that we asked them was, why do you stay at your high school? Why is it that you stay at your high school? And this one girl who's new to Arizona, new to PV, and new to Sweetwater Community School said, it's the love. There's lots of love there. They really care about me. And I was like, okay, that's the first question. I'm going to be crying now the rest of the, but on the flip side, they're really honest too. Like they told us what they don't like, you know, what they have concerns about. And so I also want to thank PV High School for feeding us so well and hosting yesterday, and Mr. Long, and for all the work that he does to prepare for that. Mrs. Matura, thanks for your input as board president, and it was great.
Mrs. Greenberg?
I will echo what everybody else said. It was a phenomenal opportunity that we were able to get back in person after 2 years and see some of these students that, as everybody has said, we've known since they were freshmen, now they're seniors. At my table, it was fascinating when the question came up, why are you in PV, or why did you stay? One of the freshmen from one of our schools actually said, well, I chose PV. She actually is her home school is Central High in downtown. And she talked about the programs that we offer and why she chose, as opposed to why she's staying, but why she intends to stay is the programs we have and the teachers we have. I mean, everybody at my table said the exact same thing. They know which teachers, you know, they know who cares, they know who loves, and it's pretty much all of our teachers. And it is heartwarming to hear that affirmation from our students. So thank you. And yes, I have a particular shout out to the culinary folks at PV. As a vegetarian, they were, and Mrs. Chisholm, they were all concerned, and there were phenomenal offerings, and they actually made me something special. So it was delicious. So it was amazing. Thank you.
All right. I, of course, also enjoyed student voice. That is one of my favorite things, and getting back in person and being able to speak with the students even before we started our official program where we had leading questions and had a specific agenda, just sitting down and eating with the kids and just asking them and having them talk and just hearing from them, because everyone here, everyone in education, we are all here, everyone here tonight in the audience, we're all here because we care about the kids. And so being able to interact with the students and being with them is it's just really an energizing moment to have. So I really appreciate that this is a program that we have and all the work that goes into organizing it and seeing the kids in person. I said, you're all full sized. You're no longer these little boxes on my screen. And that was really fantastic. And in that same light, having the students performing here tonight, I just love seeing what our students are doing in all of our different schools across the district. They're just doing such amazing things, such amazing programs. And I love it. So thank you, Mrs. Minnick, back there, for bringing the students to us here. So thank you very much. And next on the agenda is call to the public. We are about to convene call to the public, which allows the public the opportunity to address the board. Although state law does not require that we hold a call to the public, we have chosen to do so because we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community about concerns and issues. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. Call to the public is not designed to be a discussion. Due to Arizona open meeting law, the governing board cannot respond to, discuss, or take action on items brought up during this time. However, staff members may be directed to get back to you to address your individual concerns. Additionally, I want to remind you that in lieu of speaking tonight, you may choose to submit written comments to the board by completing a public comment form on the district homepage. All comments submitted by noon today have been provided to each governing board member and to the superintendent's office in advance of tonight's meeting. Tonight, we have 3 people who have submitted comment cards prior to the start of the meeting. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for remarks. As a reminder, the point of this and every board meeting is to accomplish the business at hand and to be able to do so openly and collaboratively. All in attendance are expected to observe our meeting rules as well as rules of politeness and decorum so that we may serve as an example to our students that issues can be discussed in a respectful and civil manner. Please state your first and last name when you come to the podium. Our first speaker this evening is Jennifer Ariza, and next will be Lily Gresham.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Ariza. First, I just want to personally thank each one of you for the time you put into your positions, because I know personally for me to come to each one of these meetings is actually very challenging. So I just wanted to tell you that I actually really appreciate what you guys do. So tonight, I want you to know I stand here as a concerned parent in the Paradise Valley School District, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak. I would like to say tonight that in addition to the fact that pornography should not be allowed in our schools should not be indoctrinating children on any gender or sexual ideology. Protecting the innocence of children and granting parents the authority to raise their children as they see fit with regard to sexual mores is baseline decency. And yet this has become a controversial issue. Schools should not be overriding parental values. There is a concerted effort going on to teach our children lies about gender, normalizing what parents believe to be immoral. Schools do not need to be teaching kindergartners that boys can be girls and girls can be boys, and that we should not be teaching a third grader that all forms of sex are morally equivalent, and that all lifestyle choices are exactly the same. Do we know the damage we are doing to these young minds? A huge number of girls right now are in emotional pain. I want to share with you a text message I got from a mom of a young girl. It said, "Hi, Jennifer. Do you have any advice to get help for Maddie? She's going through some awful things this year and it's not getting better. I'm so afraid for her. We are trying to help her. She has developed eating disorders and has been cutting and being abused by another student at school. She is questioning her identity and does not even know who she is anymore." Families are the most valuable and durable form of human connection that we have. Schools should not be turning kids' values against their families' values. Parents do not want their young children exposed to inappropriate content about sex and gender theory at school. Gender social transitioning should not be allowed in our schools. This means that we should not be telling young children that they can choose if they want to be a boy or a girl, and then pretending like a little boy is a little girl or that a little girl is a little boy, allowing them to use the opposite bathrooms and things like that. And I'm just going to mention again that for those of us that have studied any part of human development, we know that the human brain does not come to full maturity until the age of 25. And knowing that, we should then be protecting the innocence of these children and not be intentionally confusing children with gender ideology. Thank you.
Next is Lily Gresham, and then will be Dina Chalou.
Thank you for all the hard work you've been doing this year. It's been a tough year, especially at Horizon High School. There's been a lot of things in the news about Horizon, and that's where my daughter goes to school. And there's been a lot of problems, but anyway, so, but thank you. My issue is I want to discuss the health and human growth development curriculum that is going to be taught to my 10th grader. I think it's so ridiculous. I looked it over. I looked at the agenda, the curriculum that they sent out for parents. It is so ridiculous. I just couldn't even get. I had to come here to discuss it. The agenda outlines 3 things. It's a 19-minute video online, and the agenda says specifically 3 items. And that is 1, to define the major structures and functions of the human reproductive system. And the second one is list and explain failure rates of common contraceptives. And number 3 was describe how sexually transmitted infections affect the human body. 19-minute video. The first part was to define the major structures and functions of the human reproductive system. Never once did they ever mention, no diagrams, no pictures, nothing. They never said the word penis. Never. I mean, it started off, and they spent 6 minutes talking about fertilization and all these scientific words that were, and pictures that were so scientific that it was unbelievable. 6 minutes, I could hardly understand it. Okay, so then the second one was list and explain failure rates of common contraceptives. 1 minute on that. And all it showed was a picture, and they never once mentioned or listed any of the methods. And they didn't say the word condom, they didn't say the word anything. But then the last one, describe how sexually transmitted infections affect the human body. They spent over 10.5 minutes on that. And it didn't say how you get these infections, but it went over, they spent 10 minutes on what it does to your body. You get blisters and sores, and you have fevers and headaches. And it was unbelievable to me that out of a 19-minute video, they spent almost more than half that time on describing sexually transmitted infections, not how you get it, but what happens to your body when you get it. And not once did they ever mention, it says it's supposed to be define the major structures and functions of the human reproductive system. I'm an adult, I know what they are, but it didn't tell me. So I don't know who came up with this curriculum or this agenda, but it's stupid, to say the least. Why even bother?
Okay. All right, we have Dina. We have your time, ma'am.
Ms.
Ma'am,
Grisham,
your time
Ms.
is up.
Grisham,
Thank
I will
you.
have Dr. Corson follow up with you.
Dina Chalou, please.
Good evening, President Matura, members of the governing board, Dr. Bales, cabinet. I was here 2 weeks ago. Some of you may have remembered me. I wanted to reintroduce myself. My name is Dina Chalou, and I have 3 daughters at Wildfire Elementary. In addition, I attended Mercury Mine, Shea, and Shadow myself. So to say that I love this district is an understatement. After I graduated from ASU, I moved to Los Angeles, and when it was time to move back, start a family, I knew I wanted to live inside the PV boundaries. And so we chose our house specifically for this. Listening to you guys talk about student voices, it really emphasizes why we love this district and why we're in this district. Parents and students, we feel like we matter, we feel love, and I'm sure you guys felt that too. That's why we're here. There's so much positivity and there's so much love, and to that end, I'm here because I want to apologize for not being so positive the last time I was here to speak. I focused on the wrong things. I was focused on looking backwards and not forward. Instead of complaining and being up here, I want to be a part of the amazing things that this district does. I know everyone up here has had a part of all of the amazing things that have been happening in the district. You've been driving forces of this, and I strive for that. And I too want to be a part of positive changes in our district. I know that we are not losing STEM in schools that are having their programs cut. It's just going to exist in a different form. So to that end, I would love to sit down with anyone in the district and talk about how we can take STEM to an even higher level. I've spoken with leaders at ASU. I've spoken with businesses and foundations. I have ideas, I have information, there's interest. I would like to speak with the leaders of our district. I would like to speak to you and see what we can achieve together, because I know that we can achieve great things together. To that end, I invite everyone up here to contact me. I don't have business cards, but I've got these little papers with my name, phone number, my email address. I would love to discuss the research and the information that I found and the ideas that people have presented, and find a way to work together to collaborate on this. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dina. I will have Dr. Jarris follow up with you. Dr. Jarris will follow up with you.
Okay, next on the agenda is Dr. Bales, superintendent comments.
Thank you, President Ventura, Governing Board, Cabinet, and guests. Before the school year ends, parents will begin thinking about summer school programs. Whether you're looking for an academic summer school program, a specialty day camp like mascot, or just some enrichment classes to fill your child's hot summer days, PV Schools has you covered. Registration is open, so please visit our website, learn more at pvschools.net/summer. Our PV Online Summer Program for current PV high school students, those who are currently enrolled with us, PV Online offers one free class, that's 0.5 credit, of an asynchronous summer school. With a variety of options available, students can take a class for remediation, enjoyment, or even to get ahead. The online teachers are highly qualified and want to help your child succeed. Registration is open. Visit PV Online through the district website for more information. Our mission moment tonight, in PV Schools, we engage, inspire, and nurture students through high-quality instruction, meaningful educational opportunities, and dynamic learning experiences. One of those experiences is our Mandarin Dual Language Immersion Program at Whispering Wind Academy. If you're considering a well-rounded elementary school experience that includes a bilingual program, explore the benefits of learning Mandarin during Whispering Wind Academy's Mandarin Information Night on Thursday, March 31st from 6 to 7 p.m. in the library. There'll be a 20-minute presentation during the event, followed by a demonstration. There will also be a chance to speak to current families who are participating in the program. Prospective immersion students are welcome to attend with their parents or guardians. Career Technical Education Signing Day, CTE, in conjunction with the National Coalition of Certification Centers, CTE Signing Day will be held on March 31st, and it mirrors the NCAA's National Signing Day for athletes who commit to playing sports in college. CTE Signing Day honors students who are making a commitment to pursue a technical education. In PV Schools, we offer a robust CTE program that helps lay the foundation for our students to be successful, no matter what path they take after graduation. Yesterday, we welcomed the Mexican Consulate and Consul General Jorge Mendoza to PV Schools. I'm told that this title is similar to an ambassador. The consulate recently donated 50 boxes of free textbooks to be distributed throughout our schools. These textbooks will supplement our efforts to support our native Spanish-speaking students on their journey of excellence. A shout out to our language acquisition leader, Rita Tantillo, and Ginny, our translator, for helping make this happen. And finally, a thank you. Allow me to express my appreciation to our community again for their support. Our community has allowed us to continue offering high-quality instruction, meaningful educational opportunities, and dynamic learning experiences. The support of our voters has also allowed our facilities to properly match the level of instruction and potential of our students. There were several construction items approved in the consent portion of tonight's agenda that will take place this summer. You'll see more of these projects again as we move along from meeting to meeting. Painting, remodels, furniture, and more are all contributing to the success of our students, offering them updated spaces to collaborate, learn, and grow. And those are my comments for this evening, President Mature.
Okay, next on the agenda is items for approval. Back to you, Dr. Bales.
Thank you, President Mature, Governing Board members, Cabinet, and guests. With a brief summary of the COBRA administration health, life, and employee paid dental, vision, flexible spending accounts, short-term disability insurance providers, and premiums for 22-23, Dr. Holmes will present this item for approval.
Madam President, members of the board, we're asking your approval this evening for the insurance providers and premiums detailed in the memo attached to this agenda item. I would like to highlight that this is the third year in a row we are able to offer zero increase to medical premiums for our employees. For each of the last 2 years, it has been an overall $0 increase for medical premiums. This year, the trend and recommendation was for 2.48%, and we were able to determine that we could absorb that as a district so that our employees for a third straight year will have no increase to their medical premium. So we're proud to be able to do that for our employees. With that, we are recommending approval.
May I please have a motion to approve the insurance benefits and premiums as presented? Are
So moved.
there any members of the board with comments or questions? I do just want to say that I know health insurance is such an important benefit for all of our employees, and to be able to keep the rates the same 3 years in a row, while I know it takes a big chunk out of a lot of employee paychecks, I know keeping it the same is much appreciated. So I'm glad we were able to do that. So thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is consideration and approval of festival sports fee increases for the 22-23 school year, second reading. Dr. Bales.
Thank you, President Ventura, governing board members, cabinet guests, and those online. With a brief summary of those increased fees for the 22-23 school year, Mr. Long will present this item for approval since this is a second reading.
Yes. Good evening, President Ventura, governing board members, and Dr. Bales. Tonight is the second reading to consider a rate increase for festival sports fees for the 22-23 school year. The recommendation being brought forward proposes increasing fees for festival sports from $65 to $75 and All-Stars from $25 to $30. This increase will offset some of the wage increases that have occurred in recent years for coaching staff, nurses, referees, and school resource officers. We recommend approval.
May I please have a motion to approve the festival sports fee increases as presented?
So moved.
Anyone have any questions or comments? Mrs. Case?
I've been one of those parents who tried to pay all the fees for my large family, and I know we're trying to keep it at a minimum, and I appreciate that. And these fees have been in place for a long time. And cost of people, the coaches and everything has gone up, and we've absorbed as much as we can. And I appreciate the length of time we try to keep it down, but I understand why we have to raise it. I want parents to know that I know what you're thinking, but this program that we have in our district is phenomenal. The festival sports fee is such a good program for our students, and I appreciate you keeping it at a minimum. And I think it's a good idea to do it so we can continue to hire the people that need, the coaches that need to be in these areas. So thank you.
Mrs. Bacon?
I also just wanted to say thank you for keeping the increase minimal. I did yesterday during Student Voice ask the students who were with me if there was a problem if they couldn't afford to play in a sport or be involved with a club, and every single one of them said, no, we know if we can't afford it, we just have to go to the coach or go to a teacher and they'll help us get involved. So that was really gratifying, because I think that is exactly what should be happening. And if I didn't hear that yesterday, I would be more concerned, but I am really glad that that is what each of them said from every high school in the district.
Mr. Laney?
I was going to say the same thing, that they'll be taken care of if they can't afford it. So that's awesome.
All right, we all had the same comments, so that's great. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is gifts and donations. We appreciate all of the gifts that our community so generously shares with our schools, and I wanted to highlight a few tonight. At Mountain Trail Middle School, Colleen and William Culler donated $5,000 to the site discretionary fund. At Pinnacle High School, the Kiwanis Club of Desert Ridge donated $1,000 to the Key Club. The Pinnacle Peak Preparatory School PTO donated $6,000 for their law enforcement education program at the school. And at Shadow Mountain High School, the JROTC Booster Club donated $1,955 to the grad club. So thank you to everyone who continues to support our students. And may I have a motion to approve gifts and donations?
So moved.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is items for discussion. Dr. Bales.
President Mature, governing board members, cabinet, and guests, with a brief summary. Our community legislative network update. I will invite Ms. Hoberg to join me for a short presentation.
Hi, I haven't seen a lot of your faces for quite a while. Good evening, President Matura, board members, Dr. Bales, Ms. Chisman, and cabinet. As mentioned, my name is Lisa Hoberg, and I'm the chair of our Community Legislative Network. As a note for anyone who's not familiar with CLN, we are a superintendent's committee that provides stakeholder input in order to advocate for public policy that will benefit PV schools. It's comprised of representatives from all the stakeholder groups in the district, including teachers, educational support employees, central office administrators, principals, parents, community members, and and community members. Sorry, a little change recently. Each fall, we resume our advocacy by finalizing a legislative agenda to help guide our discussions throughout the coming legislative session. Our committee has met once in October and once in November to approve the following legislative agenda. Again, this year, we did not make any changes to our legislative agenda as we felt it continued to reflect issues that would likely be faced again in this legislative session. I'll read each one and answer questions at the end. So advocate for continued local control of Arizona schools and advocate for policies that are in the best interests of student and staff. We recognize that this second point is a really broad statement that could result in different interpretations. However, the committee continues to feel that it is important to add this point because it truly reflects the spirit in which we consider and choose legislation in which to take a position. So we also advocate for increased state funding to meet the real costs of educating Arizona's public district school students and to alleviate the Arizona teacher and staff employment crisis, as well as to address public district school infrastructure and capital needs. Advocate for consistent fiscal transparency for all educational institutions that accept public funds. Advocate for continued preservation of Arizona voter rights. We will consistently oppose legislation that imposes unfunded mandates or mandates that negatively affect public school districts. Oppose all tax credit legislation despite the benefits of the same. Oppose legislation that may result in the direct or indirect use of public funds to support private schools, such as empowerment scholarship accounts, vouchers, or any program that legislates the same. Any questions on that? Okay, seeing none, I will move on. So CLN then continues as the session starts in January. Actually, this year was January 11th. We meet twice a month, and we've been doing that regularly, like I said, since January 11th, to track and discuss K-12 education bills. This year, we've been tracking nearly 200 of the 1,683 bills introduced. Our goal is to identify priority bills in which to take formal positions. At this time, there are 6 bills on our what we call hot list, which I will cover next. And finally, upon careful measured determination, CLN uses an email network to send legislative alerts to individual stakeholders with the goal of acting them to communicate with their legislators.
I would also like to add that, this isn't done in isolation. We have a team, cabinet, community members, and other stakeholders, including our lobbyists. And I wanted to mention that the lobbyist support is an extension of my office, advocating on behalf of all 28,000 plus students in PV. Neither I nor Ms. Berrigan, our Assistant Superintendent for Business Operations, can stay on top of all the education bills that may impact PV schools and students without some support. Part of my responsibility includes advocating for students of PV. Lobbyists have the knowledge, time, and ability for working bills, and we need someone to work bills that affect positive outcomes for the students of PV. As you can see, the scope that Lisa mentioned is quite large. Just this late afternoon, we were notified of a bill, 1269, that will be the subject of a striker on school finance. I would not have known about that without an information from our lobbyist and his team's research on what that's going to do in terms of finance reform for our schools. As a superintendent's committee, CLN will monitor many bills and they until they appear to get some traction, and then, if necessary, take a position. For example, Senate Bill 1630 would authorize the use of 15-passenger vans for daily use transporting students to and from schools. We'll monitor it before discussing a pending or official position, but 15-passenger vans are not as safe as big yellow buses. Some bills get an initial or pending position. In that case, my team can ask more questions, seek clarification, and provide feedback to the bill sponsor. For example, Senate Bill 1211 conceptually sounds good and is billed as transparency, but it requires teachers to post in advance instructional materials and activity used for student instruction, which must include textbooks, articles, videos, audio recordings, instructional handouts, and worksheets, just to name a few. This is an excessive expectation, which would negatively impact our teachers' workload at a time we expect them to plan, instruct, and assess student learning. Furthermore, through a recent amendment, it says it defines service learning, but we cannot find that definition anywhere. Does that bill prohibit food drives from local food banks? We have questions. This is an unfunded mandate and takes away local control, so we have a pending position of oppose.
Super, thank you for adding that, Dr. Bales. And I'd just like to add that I also don't have the time to track all that number of bills, nor be down at the Capitol every day, you know, as our lobbyists are. So, okay, so we will, I guess I should maybe pause any questions there before we move on to our hot list bills. Okay, seeing none, I'll move on. Okay, so this first bill, oh, sorry. Yes, please.
I just wanted to say that I understand the workload on this, and I know many people have asked me, you know, why can't we just show everybody everything that we're doing? And I just wanted to say that you guys are trying to do that, and when something is really important, you do bring it to the public's attention so that they know what's going on in the district, they know what we oppose or what we support. And, you know, to go and put a position on over 1,000 bills and update that on a daily basis would just be, it would be tough. So I appreciate the information on how you're doing that.
Mr. Lane, thank you, Ms. Matura. It is important to note, as Lisa's mentioned, I mean, these bills evolve, right? And they change over time, just as mentioned earlier, you know, with a full striker. This is the striker season right now. So the things that we thought as a shell with a title and a name could become completely different in just, you know, one day's notice. And so it is important to monitor things and see how they evolve. And it is, you know, based on experience, we've had positive impact on bills. And so things can start out sometimes as a good idea and end up as a bad bill, and vice versa. And so it's important to know that our voice is important, our PV voice. And if our PV voice is absent, somebody else's voice is down there influencing the outcome. And that other voice may not always align with the priorities in Paradise Valley School.
Thank you, Mr. Laney. Okay, so yeah, so this first bill, HCR 2039, it actually authorized school districts to spend local revenues in excess of the outdated expenditure limit, which saved PV schools. I'm sure all of you took a big sigh of relief after this. Saved us from not being able to allocate nearly $36 million of our current budget this current school year. So That was a huge relief. And this bill was actually one of the very first on our hot list. And it's actually a perfect example of the process that I just described, because we took it through the whole process. We did it to send an action alert to give our community an opportunity to contact their representatives with a request to support this bill. And thanks to adding our voices to many, many others, HCR 2039 and the corresponding Senate bill, of course, did in fact pass. And I'm also happy to report that 10 of the 12 representatives and senators who represent legislative districts overlapping our school district boundaries voted yes in support of that. So it goes to say that, really reaching out and sharing what's really important and how passing yes, voting yes or no on a bill can affect our students and our families really helps.
And Ms. Hoberg, that was support from both sides of the aisle.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's always a win.
I'm sorry, this is a discussion with the board. Thank you.
I'm happy to answer any questions after the meeting of anyone that's here. So let's move on. So, unfortunately, that was the only bill on our hot list that we were in support of. These next three bills are all empowerment scholarship fund bills. Sorry, I got a little distracted there. They all deal with ESAs. So in somewhat different ways. 1657 expands ESA eligibility to include 16 new categories, which would result in the largest expansion of the ESA program in Arizona history. The proposal also requires classroom site fund dollars to be distributed to ESA students, diverting funds from public schools. 1707 would permanently extend ESA eligibility to students who received a grant under Governor Ducey's Open for Learning Recovery Program. These grants were offered to students who attended schools which implemented COVID-19 mitigation efforts, such as distance learning or mask mandates. 2803 would expand ESA eligibility for victims of harassment or other primal offenses on school grounds. I also just want to mention that in particular with all of these all of the bills, really, we measure them against that legislative agenda that I started off with, and particularly those that reach our hot list. So all three of these bills, 100% the opposed legislation that may result in direct or indirect use of public funds to support private schools apply in these three situations. These last two, HB 2276 expands the 1487 complaint process that would have required the Arizona Attorney General to investigate any claim of a violation of state law made by a legislator against a school. It would require ADE to withhold state revenues if the Attorney General found the claim to be accurate. And then HB 2808 requires any district school that is D or F rated for 2 consecutive years to initiate a partnership or fresh start school model. If the State Board of Education, in consultation with the school district, determines that it is not practicable, the school district may instead vote to install a new superintendent, subject to review and approval by SBE, or close or consolidate the school. Many, if you've been on social media, or I think really even in the local media, that bill's been coined the school takeover bill by some. So obviously, this bill, our guiding principle on this bill is opposing legislation that imposes unfunded mandates or mandates that negatively affect public school districts. So thank you for the opportunity to provide the report on CLN tonight, and I can answer any questions at this point.
Mr. Laney.
So I went through and read these, and they're all really confusing. I just want to say that when it comes to bills. But in 1657 and 1707 and 2803, it almost sounds like they're, in laws, you have an intended purpose, and then a lot of times you have an unintended consequence. And what I see in these, the unintended consequence would be the dilution of their original purpose on helping the kids they're originally designed to help. Would you?
I personally would agree with that.
Okay. And then when it comes to HB 2276, I told Dr. Bells this. My son told me a story one time, or not a story, but he came to me one day, and when he was younger, quite younger, and he said, "Dad, the amount of laws that a nation has, it's a direct reflection on their morality. And the more laws they have, the more they can't govern themselves." And so the way I see this bill is it looks good in purpose. In the long run, it takes authority away from the five of us to govern our own district. Yes, districts may have problems. That's our job to fix. And though this may be a great purpose, get the Attorney General involved and help fix the district, that's on us to fix. So that's why I would personally oppose something like that.
Sure, completely, personally.
That's all I have.
Any other questions? Mrs. Case?
The increase of ESA funding and eligibility and all those things directly affects how much money is spent in public education. And you kind of said it sideways quickly, and I just wanted to emphasize that. And that, so people can say, oh, well, they're just getting a tax credit or whatever, but it affects the funding that is allowed to be spent in education. And I think we need to remember that. Thank you.
If I might add, it also takes local funding into private schools that have no governance, such as yourself, that are elected, by the constituents of where those funds come. So I think that that's a really important thing to consider too. Anything else?
Okay. Thank you very much for sharing with us this evening. I appreciate
All you do.
the discussion and the questions.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay. Next on the agenda is call for executive session. May I have a motion, please?
Move that the governing board call for an executive session in accordance with Arizona Revised Statutes, which reads as follows. Arizona Revised Statute 38431.03.A5, discussions or consultations with designated representatives of the public body in order to consider its position and instruct its representatives regarding negotiations with employee organizations regarding the salaries, salary schedules, or compensation paid in the form of fringe benefits of employees of the public body. Our purpose is to meet for instruction and direction.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. The regular meeting is recessed at 7:50 p.m. to go into executive session, and will reconvene after we return from executive session. We are reconvening our regular meeting at 8:10 PM. And next on the agenda is instruction to administration. May I have a motion, please?
Move that the governing board instruct administration regarding negotiations with employee groups as directed in executive session.
All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Before we adjourn, I would like to remind you that the next regular board meeting will be held on Thursday, April 7th at 7 PM. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Meeting adjourned.